Imagine that right now, sitting in the quiet of your room or scrolling endlessly through your phone, you hear a voice. A voice that speaks directly inside your head. It is your own voice. It tells you the story of who you are. It comments on every move you make, passes judgment on every thought that arises, spins elaborate plans for a future that hasn't yet arrived, and picks apart the remnants of a past that no longer exists. You've been listening to this voice for as long as you can remember. You trust it more than you trust anyone else on this planet. You've never once questioned its authority because you believe, with every fiber of your being, that this voice is you. It is the narrator of your life, the main character of your story, the force that makes sense of the chaos. But what if I told you that this voice is lying to you? What if, every morning, the moment you open your eyes, you invite into your mind the most skillful, persuasive, and dangerous liar you will ever meet? And that liar is your own brain. It sounds like the opening of a psychological thriller, doesn't it? The kind of story where the protagonist slowly realizes their closest confidant has been manipulating them from the shadows. But this isn't fiction. It's not a plot twist dreamed up by a screenwriter. This is the most ordinary, mundane, undeniable reality of being human. And today, we're going to step into that liar's workshop. We're going to quietly switch on the lights in the darkest, most hidden corners of your consciousness. We're going to watch, with the patience of a documentary filmmaker, the subtle machinery that, day after day, hour after hour, minute after minute, distorts your reality, colors your perceptions, and builds a world that exists only inside your head. We won't rely on complicated medical jargon or dry scientific data. We'll simply watch the projector as it runs, and slowly begin to see that the film it's playing, the story about you, your life, your worth, your future, is not a documentary. It's a work of fiction. And it's been playing on a loop your entire life. Let's start at the very beginning of your day. Not the moment you open your eyes, but the few moments before, that strange, hazy space between sleep and waking. You're still lying there, body heavy, breath slow. But your brain is already hard at work. It didn't wait for you to become conscious. It's already booted up its oldest, most essential program. That program is called prediction. Your brain is not designed to see the world as it actually is. That would be far too slow, too inefficient, too risky. Instead, your brain is built to predict the world before it unfolds. It's a machine shaped by evolution for one purpose: survival. Not happiness, not truth, not self-fulfillment, survival. And this ancient machine, honed over hundreds of millions of years, greets the new day armed with the data of every yesterday you've ever lived. It already knows the smell of your morning coffee before you've even poured it. It's already anticipating the traffic on your commute, and it begins to release a small dose of cortisol, a subtle tension, to prepare you for the frustration ahead. It pulls up a mental list of unfinished tasks, unresolved arguments, looming deadlines. It resurrects old fears and old grievances, like an archivist convinced that the past is the only reliable map to the future. And all of this happens before the first ray of sunlight touches your eyelids. Your brain doesn't wait for reality. It builds a model of reality based on past experience, and then forcefully drapes that model over the present moment like a wet sheet thrown over a sleeping figure. You don't wake up into the world. You wake up into a world your brain has already predicted, judged, and reacted to 5 full minutes before you even opened your eyes. Then you rise. You swing your legs out of bed, your feet touch the floor, and you shuffle toward the bathroom. A journey of maybe 10 steps. But for your brain, it's a journey through a landscape already saturated with meaning. You stop in front of the mirror. You look at your reflection. And this right here is the first conscious act of creation your brain performs for you today. You look at the face in the glass, and your mind instantly applies a filter. It doesn't see an objective image, just a collection of shapes, colors, textures. Instead, it sees a collection of labels, of tags, of judgments accumulated and cemented over years. Look at those bags under my eyes. I slept terribly again. I always sleep terribly. My hair's a mess. I look exhausted and unattractive. Or, for some, the filter may work in the opposite direction, not bad for my age. Looking good today. But whether the judgment is positive or negative, it's not the truth. It's an interpretation. It's a story your brain is telling you about the person you see. It's not even a photograph. It's a painting, created by an artist who's in a highly emotional state, an artist who can't help but add shadows where there are none, and brighten the features you've been trained to notice. The mirror doesn't lie. The mirror simply reflects. The lie is the voice that speaks about the reflection. Now think about what happens the moment you step outside. You leave the relative safety of your private space and enter a world filled with other people. And here, the liar in your head becomes truly virtuosic. Because your brain doesn't just lie to you about yourself. It lies to you about everyone else. It has a special tool for this, which psychologists call theory of mind, but in everyday life, we know it simply as, I know what you're thinking. You see someone walking toward you on the street. Their brow is furrowed. They glance your way, expression unreadable. And in a fraction of a second faster than conscious thought, your brain constructs an elaborate narrative. They're frowning. They don't like how I look. I must seem strange today. Maybe my clothes are odd. Maybe they recognize me and remember something bad. You don't entertain the possibility that this person just received terrible news on their phone. You don't consider they're lost in their own problems, their own fears, their own life. You don't allow for the chance that they're simply reacting to physical discomfort, a headache, a sore back. Your brain does this instantly, automatically, and the most unsettling part is that it does it to protect you. Back on the savannah, the ability to instantly gauge another person's intentions was a matter of life and death. He's frowning. He's angry. He might attack. Be ready. But today, you're walking through a grocery store or an office hallway, and this ancient defense system creates a field of tension around you with no basis in external reality. You're fighting ghosts. You're dodging attacks that will never come. And you're exhausting yourself in the process. This process never stops. It runs continuously, like a generator in the basement of your mind, humming away day and night. You have a conversation with a colleague who glances at their phone while you're speaking, and your brain whispers, you're boring them. You're not interesting. You have nothing valuable to say. You send a message to a friend and get no reply for an hour, and your brain starts writing a novel about how you've offended them, how the friendship is fading, how you'll end up alone. You open social media and see photos of happy people on beaches, in restaurants, at parties, and your brain, like an obedient servant, holds up a mirror that reflects your own life as gray, insignificant, and lacking. But none of it is true. It's all illusion. It's your brain taking a very limited set of data points and filling in the rest of the canvas with the darkest pigments it can find. Why does it do this? Why does it default to the negative? Because negativity sticks. For survival, it's far more important to notice the venomous snake in the grass than to admire the beautiful flower. Your brain is a night vision device tuned to detect threats. And it finds them everywhere, even where they don't exist, simply because that's its job. It would rather be wrong 100 times, seeing a tiger in every shadow, than be wrong once and miss the actual tiger. But the most sophisticated, most elaborate, most emotionally devastating lies your brain serves you on a silver platter every day have to do with your past and your future. Let's pause here for a moment and really consider what we mean by memory. We have this deeply ingrained belief that memory is like a video recording. That somewhere deep in the archives of our minds lie pristine, unaltered files of everything that's ever happened to us. We believe that if we try hard enough, focus enough, dig deep enough, we can open that file and watch the scene exactly as it unfolded. But modern neuroscience has shattered this illusion completely. Every time you remember something, you're not playing back a recording. You're rebuilding a story from fragments stored in different parts of your brain, and each time you rebuild it, you do so influenced by the present moment. Think of a memory from your childhood. Perhaps a time you fell off your bike and scraped your knee. You remember the pain, the shock, the sight of blood. You remember your mother running toward you across the yard. But what if I told you that your memory of this event is a feature film you've been reshooting and re-editing for decades? Every time you've told this story to a friend, every time you've simply replayed it in your mind, you've made tiny changes. You've made your mother's expression a little more concerned. You've made the pain a little sharper. You've added details that weren't there, because they make the story better, more coherent, more meaningful. And now, years later, the original event is buried under layer upon layer of interpretation, emotion, and retelling. Your brain doesn't store the truth. It stores the essence, the emotional core, and every time you need an image, it paints a new picture using the palette of your current mood. If you're sad today, your childhood will appear gray and lonely. If you're in love, those same memories will suddenly feel warm and nostalgic. You don't remember the past. You imagine it. You construct it, using the materials of the present moment. The past is a story you tell yourself, and the storyteller changes every day. And the future. Ah, the future. That's your brain's favorite playground. This is where it truly lets loose. This is where it builds its most elaborate, terrifying, convincing fictions. You lie in bed at night, trying to fall asleep, and the session begins. Your brain, free from the distractions of the day, starts projecting scenarios onto the screen of tomorrow. It takes your current fears, insecurities, anxieties, and projects them forward, painting a vivid picture of all the terrible things that are about to happen. Tomorrow, I'm going to fail that presentation. Tomorrow, I'm going to say something stupid on that date. Tomorrow, everything will fall apart. And the worst part is, you believe it. You accept these dark fantasies as predictions. You start preparing for failure, emotionally living through the catastrophe hours before it's even had a chance to occur. Your brain steals your peace, your rest, your present moment, by feeding you a horror movie it scripted and directed itself. And when tomorrow comes, you walk onto the stage already exhausted, already defeated, already convinced of the outcome. The prophecy fulfills itself, and your brain nods sagely and says, "See? I told you. I was right all along." It doesn't realize it was the one who built the stage, wrote the script, and directed the play. This is the human condition. This is the water we swim in. We live our entire lives in a constant, unending dialogue with this internal narrator. And this narrator is not us. It's a function. A tool. A voice that evolved to help us survive on a dangerous planet, but it has become a tyrant. We become so fused with it, so identified with its constant commentary, that we've forgotten there's anything else. We don't notice how it poisons our relationships, making us suspicious of people who mean us no harm. We don't notice how it fills us with dread about a future that hasn't arrived. We don't notice how it shackles us to a past that no longer exists. We live inside a prison our own mind has built, a prison whose walls are made of stories, and we've mistaken those walls for the world. But what if I told you there's a way out of this prison? That you're not condemned to be the captive of this internal liar for your entire life? What if the escape route has been here all along, hidden in plain sight, in the very nature of your own awareness? This isn't about silencing the voice. You can't silence it any more than you can silence your heartbeat. And it's not about achieving some perfect, thoughtless state of bliss. That's another story the liar tells you, another goal to chase, another failure to add to the list. This is about something far simpler, far more accessible, and far more radical. It's about learning to recognize the voice for what it is. It's about discovering that you are not the voice. You are the one who hears it. Imagine standing in front of that mirror again tomorrow morning. The voice starts up, right on schedule. "Oh, look at those bags. I look terrible." And in that moment, you do something different. Instead of getting drawn into the story, instead of agreeing with the judge, instead of feeling the familiar slump of discouragement, you simply notice. You notice the voice. You notice the words. You notice the tone. And you ask yourself a quiet, revolutionary question: who is listening to this voice? Who is aware of these words? In that instant, a gap appears. A sliver of space opens between you and your thoughts. You realize the voice is an object of your awareness, and you are the subject. The voice is a cloud passing through the sky of your consciousness, and you are the sky. The cloud cannot harm the sky. The cloud cannot define the sky. The sky is simply there, vast and open, allowing the cloud to come and go as it pleases. This isn't some mystical concept reserved for monks and philosophers. It's the most practical, down-to-earth skill you can develop. It's the skill of disidentification. The ability to realize you are not your thoughts, you are the thinker of your thoughts. You are not your emotions, you are the feeler of your emotions. You are not the voice, you are the listener. And from this new perspective, everything changes. The lies your brain tells you every day don't disappear, but they lose their power. They become like the background noise of a city, present, but not consuming. You can hear them without being controlled by them. You can watch the parade of thoughts without stepping into the street and joining the march. So let's go back to that moment on the street, when you see the stranger with the furrowed brow. The voice will still start its familiar story, they're judging you. They don't like you. But now, you have a choice. You can listen to the story and feel the familiar sting of rejection. Or you can notice the story. You can say to yourself, there it is again. My brain is doing its job. It's trying to protect me by predicting a threat. But in this moment, in this reality, there is no threat. There's just a person walking down the street. And in that noticing, the tension dissolves. Your shoulders drop. Your jaw unclenches. You take a breath. You are no longer a character in the movie your brain is projecting. You are the audience, sitting calmly in the dark, watching the screen with interest but without attachment. This is the beginning of freedom. This is the first step out of the prison of the thinking mind. And it's available to you right now, in this very moment, as you read these words. The voice in your head might be saying, "This is interesting," or "This is boring," or "I don't understand," or "I want to go back to scrolling." Notice that voice. Notice it without judgment. And then ask yourself, who is noticing? Who is aware of the voice? The answer is not a thought. It's not a concept. It's a direct experience, a felt sense of presence that's been with you your entire life, hidden in plain sight, behind every thought, beneath every emotion. It's the you that was there before the voice started speaking, and it will be there after the voice falls silent. It's the only thing about you that has never lied. And so there you are, standing in the lobby of this infinite internal cinema. You've just taken the first and most difficult step, you've begun to doubt the voice of the narrator. You've glimpsed the possibility that the thoughts you've always taken to be you are merely shadows on a cave wall. But what happens next? What happens when you step out of that dark theater and into the sunlight, trying to live with this new understanding? You quickly discover that the old liar doesn't give up so easily. It changes tactics. It becomes more subtle, more sophisticated. And now that you know its secret, it begins to play a new game with you, an even more captivating and dangerous one. Because the most interesting part begins precisely when you try to separate truth from lies. Your brain, that master manipulator, adapts instantly. It says to you, in a voice that sounds remarkably reasonable, "Excellent. I understand now. I'll be quiet. I'll be perfect. Look, I'm not thinking anything negative. I've achieved enlightenment. I'm at peace." And this, right here, is the most dangerous trap on the entire journey. Because the thought that you have achieved something, the thought that you have understood something, the thought that you are now enlightened or awake or peaceful, that is still a thought. It's still part of the performance. It's as if the actor in your head suddenly removes their mask and says, "Look, it was just me playing a role all along," but continues to play the role of the actor removing the mask. You begin your day with firm resolve not to believe the internal dialogue. You walk to work, feeling centered, feeling present. And then your boss glances at you with a strange expression. In a flash, faster than you can blink, the old program activates. There it is. They're unhappy with me. I'm probably going to get fired. But then you remember your new superpower. You tell yourself, "Stop. This is just a thought. My old friend the liar is trying to scare me. I don't have to believe it." And you feel a swell of pride. You did it. You caught it in the act. You won. But let's look a little deeper. Who is this you that feels pride? Who is this you that celebrates victory over thoughts? It's another thought. Your brain has instantly turned your liberation into a new narrative. It has created a story about the enlightened me who defeats negative thoughts. And now you are attached to this new image. Now you begin to fear losing this state. Now you begin to evaluate every moment. Am I being aware right now? Am I falling for it? Am I still enlightened? And this process of evaluation, this constant self-monitoring, drops you right back into the same cage, only now the cage is painted in brighter colors, decorated with spiritual language, lined with the cushions of self-improvement. This is like trying to outrun your own shadow. The faster you run, the harder you try to escape it, the more persistently it follows you, step for step. Your brain will use any action, any success, any insight to strengthen the sense of a separate self that is doing the achieving. It whispers, "Look how aware I've become. Look how calm I am. Look how much I've grown." And you fall for it again, because you've simply transferred your identification from the old, anxious self to a new, improved, spiritual self. But a self is a self. A story is a story. And the liar doesn't care what story it tells, as long as you keep believing that the story is you. Do you remember that feeling of stillness between thoughts we spoke about earlier? That feeling of simply observing the mind without getting caught? That feeling is not an achievement. It can't be bought, accumulated, or held onto. It is either here, right now, or it is not. And the attempt to hold on to it is the surest way to lose it. Because holding on requires effort. It requires a holder. And the space behind thoughts requires no effort at all. It simply is. It's like the sky, through which clouds drift. The clouds are thoughts. They come and go. But the sky doesn't try to hold onto the clouds, nor push them away. It simply allows them to be, utterly undisturbed by their passage. Our entire lives, our entire experience of suffering, stems from one fundamental error: we confuse the map with the territory. Your brain creates a map of reality, a simplified, labeled, judged version of the world. And then we begin to live on that map. We build our houses there, raise our families there, fight our wars there. We forget that underneath the map, there is a living, breathing, pulsing world. We argue with our partners not about what they actually did or said, but about the stories our brains told us about their actions. We feel fear not in response to real, immediate danger, but in response to scenarios our imagination has painted on the canvas of the future. We feel sadness not about what was lost, but about the endlessly looping tape of thoughts about what was lost. Here's a simple experiment you can conduct right now, without moving from where you sit. Just lift your eyes from this text for a moment and look at something in your room. A lamp. The edge of a table. Your own hand resting on your knee. Look at that object as if you were seeing it for the very first time. Without its name. Without its history. Without its associated judgments. Just form, color, light, shadow. Notice how different this is from the way we usually look at things. Usually, we don't see things at all, we read their labels. Lamp. Needs dusting. I should replace that bulb. Hand. Looking old. The skin is dry. We live in a world of labels, a world made of words. But reality is prior to words. Reality is there, in the space where sensation meets attention. It is the feeling of light on your retina, the weight of your body against the chair, the faint hum of the refrigerator in the distance. Your liar brain hates this world. Because in this world, it has nothing to do. In this world, it is unemployed. There are no problems here, no past, no future, only the single, pulsing, eternally fresh moment. And this is where every spiritual tradition, every philosophy, every genuine search for truth has always pointed. But they are only fingers pointing at the moon. They say, "Look there. Don't look at me, look where I'm pointing." But we, like obedient students, begin to study the finger. We worship the finger. We write scholarly treatises on the perfection of the finger's shape, completely missing the vast, infinite sky it was trying to show us. Your brain loves it when you study the finger. It says, "Yes. Let's go deeper. Let's analyze. Why do I think this way? Where did this pattern come from? Is it childhood trauma? Is it cultural conditioning? And you dive into endless analysis, endless therapy, endless self-examination. And all the while, you remain inside the story. You're just editing the script. You're changing the set design in your prison cell and calling it freedom. True freedom arrives not when you understand why your brain lies. True freedom arrives when you simply stop demanding that it tell you the truth. When you stop believing every thought it produces, including the most beautiful, most spiritual, most apparently profound thoughts. When you allow thoughts to come and go like strangers passing on the street, without inviting them into your home, without sitting them down at your table, without serving them tea and letting them stay the night. Think about the most painful memory you carry. The one that makes you wince internally when it surfaces. Now ask yourself, where is that memory located, right now, in this room? Can you touch it? Does it have weight, or color, or temperature? No. There is only a thought about it. And your body, your loyal servant, reacting to that thought by releasing stress hormones, tensing muscles, quickening your pulse. You are weeping over a photograph that doesn't exist. You are suffering at the hands of a ghost. The same is true of the future. Where is your fear about tomorrow's presentation? Where is it stored in this space? It isn't anywhere. There is only a thought. And your body, which cannot tell the difference between a real tiger leaping from the bushes and an imagined humiliation in a conference room, dutifully activates its emergency response system. The chemistry is identical. And you live in a state of chronic, low-grade stress because your brain is endlessly projecting these holograms and then reacting to them as if they were real. But what if you simply turned off the projector? What if you stopped supplying electricity to this machine that manufactures horror films? That doesn't mean the projector will break. It will keep humming, keep trying to throw images onto the wall. But you simply shift your gaze to the white wall itself, and you see that it is pristine. You see that there is no film. There is only your attention, habitually drawn to the flickering shadows, mistaking them for reality. Let's return to our morning mirror. You stand there again. The voice begins its familiar refrain, bags under my eyes, looking tired. And this time, you do something different from what we discussed earlier. You don't tell yourself, that's just a thought. Because that's another thought. Instead, you simply look at the face in the mirror. You look without the filter of words. You see the eyes. Not tired eyes, but simply eyes, with light reflecting in them. You see the skin. Not aging skin or problematic skin, but simply a surface with a unique texture and color. You hear the sounds of the morning drifting through the window, a bird, distant traffic, the hum of a neighbor's life. You feel the floor beneath your feet. You suddenly realize, with a shock of recognition, that you are not inside your head. You are here. In this body. In this room. In this moment. And in this moment, there is no problem. The problem existed only in the story the voice was telling. The voice spoke of the past and the future. The voice compared, judged, condemned. But in the present moment, there is nothing to compare. The present moment simply is. And it is always perfect in its raw, unadorned suchness. Even if there is pain in this moment, physical discomfort, sadness, loss, it is just sensation. It comes and goes. It does not become suffering until the brain wraps a story around it. Why do I always feel this way? This isn't fair. What if it never gets better? Suffering is pain multiplied by narrative. Remove the narrative, and what remains is simply sensation. Unpleasant, perhaps, but bearable. As natural as cold or heat, as temporary as weather. And now you are walking down the street. You see people passing. You notice how your brain instantly categorizes them, attractive or unattractive, successful or unsuccessful, friend or foe, safe or dangerous. But now you are not drawn into this game. You simply observe the categorization process in action. It's like watching a machine on an assembly line. Parts move along the conveyor belt, are sorted into bins, labeled and packaged. But you don't have to buy the products. You don't have to take them home. You simply walk past the factory, observing its relentless activity with mild, detached interest. And then, suddenly, you notice something else. You notice how the sunlight catches the surface of a puddle left by last night's rain, creating 1,000 tiny reflections. You don't think about this. You don't analyze it. You simply see it. And in that seeing, for a fleeting moment, the seer and the seen are not two separate things. There is just the seeing. You and the puddle and the light become a single, unified event. And in that unity, loneliness vanishes. Fear vanishes. Time vanishes. This is not a mystical trance reserved for saints. This is the most ordinary state of human consciousness, simply buried under mountains of mental rubbish called thinking. A young child lives in this state constantly, until they are taught not to. Until they are told, that is a table. That is bad. You should. You shouldn't. And the child gradually leaves the real world behind and enters a world of symbols, a world where everything has a name and a value and a judgment attached to it. They become an adult. They become smart. They become expert liars, especially to themselves. But somewhere deep inside, beneath all those layers of accumulated thought, the child is still there. And that child still sees the light in the puddles. That child still hears the silence between sounds. That child still knows the truth your liar brain works so hard to conceal. The truth that you are not your thoughts. You are that which is aware of thoughts. You are that which hears the voice. You are that which knows that it exists. And when you touch that, even for an instant, the entire weight of the world lifts from your shoulders. You realize that everything you've been afraid of, all your problems, all your anxieties, all your regrets, are just dust on the lens of perception. You don't need to wipe the dust away. You just need to recognize that it is dust, and not part of the lens itself. And then the light passes through, barely dimmed at all. This is the freedom we've been circling. It's not when the brain stops lying. The brain will lie to you every single day until the day you die. That's its job. That's what it does. But your job, the only job that really matters, is not to be deceived. Your job is to remember who you really are. You are not the story. You are not the character. You are the screen upon which the story appears and disappears. You are the silence in which the voice speaks. You are the light that illuminates all these passing shadows. And when you die, your brain will die with you. Its stories will end. Its lies will dissolve. But that which you truly are, was it ever born? Can it ever die? Philosophers have debated this for millennia. But the answer is not in books. The answer is here, right now, behind every thought you think. It is waiting for you to stop searching and simply look at that which is looking. You are still here. You are still listening to this voice, which is now speaking in your head. But perhaps, just perhaps, you have begun to sense something else. A presence behind the voice. A stillness beneath the movement. An awareness that has been here all along, witnessing everything, touched by nothing. This awareness is not something you achieve. It is what you already are. It is your original face, the face you had before your parents were born. And it has never, not for a single moment, been fooled by any lie your brain has ever told. It knows the truth. It is the truth. And it has been waiting, patiently, for you to turn around and recognize yourself.